What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of Let's Hash It, the podcast where we talk about video games. We're a little short-handed today. It's just myself, Jay Lewis, and my man Pedro Mirabal. What's going
What
on, brother?
up? How are you?
Uh, Very good. We don't have Nathan's third eye today, but I think we should be able to do all right.
I believe so.
We had a busy week this week in video gaming. E3 was a few days ago, and today I figured we would just take some time out since it's just the two of us. And I want to talk about what our top three games were. So you'll get three, and I'll get three. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Actually, you know what? Real quick before we do that, I meant to do this on our E3 podcast, but we live in Orlando, folks. We are an Orlando-based podcast, and there were some tragic events that just recently took place. And I just wanted to kind of, say that, our thoughts and our prayers are with the individuals affected by this horrific event. Everyone at EDG, we hope everyone stays strong, stays Orlando strong. So I just want to say that right off the top. So, Pedro, it's on to you, sir.
Yes, sir. I echo those statements, and we will begin with my one of my favorite games for this E3. Um, will have to have been coming from the Microsoft press conference, and that is Recore. Um, Hold on.
Yeah, Recore's a pretty dope looking game.
Yeah, Recore is it's definitely a change. It provides a change of pace to what we're used to. What's cool about it is a Inafune game, so it's part the makers of um, Metroid Prime and Mega Man, and it definitely provides a different style of gameplay from everything I've seen thus far. The cool thing about it is Microsoft has taken a pretty interesting approach with this because they're actually going to make this game release it at a much lower price point than anything else usually gets released at. It's going to be $40 on release date September 13th, which I thought was a really good idea because um, typically, these new IPs come out at $60, but since this is a new IP and it's a new character, and they're not really, and Microsoft really just isn't sure about whether or not they want to, or whether or not people will kind of like the characters. They're giving them a more valuable, like more value with that game. So I don't know if that means to you that uh, they don't have confidence in the game, or if it's a good if you believe it's a good idea to do so.
Yeah, so first of all, when I heard that it had a September release date, that was the first kind of shocker because, we didn't find out about that game that long ago. And I figured this would definitely have been a game that we saw come out in 2017. So when I found out about September, I was shocked. So then we find out about the $40 price point, which is, $20 off of a normal retail game. And then I kind of started wondering, like, maybe is this a smaller experience, do you think? Or
I'm actually doing some research right now and seeing what they say in terms of game length. Um,
because I was going to say, for context, we just saw the PlayStation put out the Ratchet and Clank game, and that was a full experience. I gladly would have spent $60 on that game, but that was another $40 game. So could this be a new trend that we see, perhaps?
I mean, like I said, this is just Microsoft basically saying this is a new IP. These are new characters. This, it may take a little while for people to kind of warm up to this new game and this new story. So we're gonna create a value proposition at $40. I don't think that means that you're not going to go ahead and get a full experience. But I mean, it does beg the question is out there. How long is it going to take to finish it? Everything I've read so far is it tells a really good story of survival in a post-apocalyptic world, as well as giving you quality action moments. I think that since this is a game that really going in we needed to know more about, and we didn't know kind of you know uh, what exactly the story, the purpose of the game was, what we were doing, kind of how the little orb turns into the different characters, things like that. I think that you know pricing it at $40 is going to be, it's much less of a risk for the gamers than a $60 purchase would be in a game where, I mean, to be honest, still has a lot of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw like when we saw the gameplay footage, it looks like this game has some platforming elements to it. And generally speaking, platformers, they're not the longest games. They're usually 10 to 12 hour experiences. So maybe this game is more of like a survival platformer, and hence maybe that's what the price is, why it's $40. Maybe it is a 10 to 12 hour game, and then maybe they could just be laying the groundwork for a game that's going to be much bigger in the future. Maybe that's when we'll see the game get features like some type of multiplayer or co-op aspect to it. And maybe this is again just introducing the characters, like you said, something like when PlayStation tried to introduce the Order 1866. A lot of people think that game was just more or less like getting you in that world and getting you introduced to the characters. And then if we do see a sequel out of that game, it'll be a much bigger game. I wonder if this is going to be something like that.
Well, I just found the quote from one of the developers, and says Recourse campaign should last around 8 to 12 hours.
There you have it.
But he does have a history of underestimating the time it takes you to finish the game. The game is non-linear, so it is a particularly open world game, so to speak. It does have pretty good RPG systems, and it does have experience progression, and you can progress the experience of like the little mechs that help you out and stuff like that too. So I mean, it might last you much longer than 8 to 12 hours to finish.
Very cool, man. Good first pick.
What was your first pick?
My first pick, we're going in ascending order, by the way. So this is the bottom of our list, and we're working our way to our top. So those listening at home, what's going on. So my first pick was Horizon Zero Dawn. I think that this game looks really, really, really good. I love the atmosphere, how it has that really, it looks like you're in the forest, and there's no civilization. It's like these smaller villages, but then you do get hints that there was a modern civilization at one point. Like we saw some pictures that showed, let's see if I can find one, like a picture where you see some like skyscrapers in the back where the earth is kind of taken over and started growing through these skyscrapers that once stood. So I like the idea of that, like here it is, maybe hundreds of years later after the fall of man and the fall of technology, and we're forced back into the woods, but yet here we have these dinosaur type of looking creatures that are obviously machines. So I think they have something really cool and interesting and unique there. Okay, here's one of the images that I was looking at. Actually, am I screen sharing? I don't think I'm screen sharing. Let me pull this up for you guys real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. So that's the screen I'm referring to. You can see that, right, Pedro?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think they could do some interesting things there. And I wonder if there is going to be some type of mechanic where, you need to go explore into the top of these really high, buildings. And, that would be an awesome way to get some, awesome vistas in the background. Now, the combat, we saw some really interesting mechanics where one in particular that comes to mind is she lays down this like balloon looking thing, and when the dinosaur gets near it, she shoots it, and then it causes an explosion, and it set the dinosaur on fire, which that looked really interesting. I've never seen nothing like that done before.
Like a little
We
trap. Yeah.
Yeah, like a little trap. We saw that there will be destructible environments. The dinosaur literally just ramsacks this little hut, so there will be destructible environments. You can mount the animals. I thought that was really unique. What are your thoughts on this game, Pedro?
I actually like it a lot. The gameplay mechanics are, like you said, very, very good. I really do like the graphics on the game, the RPG elements. I think that this is going to be a very, very unique game. The one thing that disappointed me was that it's not coming out this year. And I think that this year would have been great for them to kind of fit it in, as opposed to an early 2017 game, which this is, showing up at the end of February. I mean, there's definitely an opening for Sony to have their own, a big AAA title in 2016. And I'm not sure why they pushed it back to 2017, especially since it's basically just going to be Gran Turismo and The Last Guardian, I think, for this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's why they push this game to February. I don't know if they maybe need a little bit more time for polish. When you put out a new IP, you want to go in guns blazing. You want to make sure it's got all the polish that it could possibly have. They don't want to make the same mistake with this game that they did to Order 1866 and put out a superficial game. Like, I think they're really just trying to take their time with it and put all their energy they have. But I mean, you could be right. They maybe don't want to put it up against their own, first party games. It could be that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's that. Okay, well, that makes sense. I like that February move though, of early this year. That's in that Dead Island. Was it Dead Island, or was it what was the name of the zombie game that came out? That did really
Oh,
well.
yeah. Damn, I'm drawing a blank too. And I played the game. It had the parkour in it.
Yeah, it's in
Everyone at
that.
home is like, ah.
It's in that legit, space where you could, you know, release a game at that time of year and not have to worry about, um, competition or anything like that. So I mean, that it does make sense for them to release it at that time. But that's the only negative I find, is that it's in that area.
Yeah,
Is
Dying Light is the game you're referring to.
Dying Light. There we go. Yeah, that's the only negative I found, man. Other than that, I think that we we're gonna be in store for a great game. I think it's gonna be something that Sony is gonna hang their hat on, and that should be a series or a new IP that will lead them, towards for the next couple of years, if done right, of course.
Yeah, for sure. What is the second game you have on your list, Pedro?
Second game I have on my list is, I'll tell you right now, We
All right,
Happy Few.
We Happy Few.
We Happy Few is it's probably the weirdest game that we've seen, in my opinion. I think it in the entire E3 was that. I think that was a super weird looking game, but it definitely gave us the vibe of BioShock and actually, yeah, just the BioShock vibe is what it gave us ultimately. And I think that's what's going to make this game so good is that it's in that like kind of Victorian land, but the game is pretty dope because it actually is about this town that everybody just takes drugs to be happy and kind of forget about life. But then there are people who don't take the drugs that are called downers. And the guy that you're playing is a downer. The purpose of the game is to escape from this city alive. Now, the way you do that is that you have to learn how to survive in the city. And survival means, kind of eating and drinking. But since some of the stuff is laced with actual, like with the actual happy drugs, you have to learn kind of what's what. So you have to learn what the drugs look like, or where to get water that isn't laced with drugs. You also have to learn, what times of the day to, get in and out of town, or to get in and out of areas to move towards the edge of town. It's super, super dope. Should be, a very nice indie game. It is on early access July 28th, which is dope. So I think that is going to be a pretty good game to look into, especially for people who own Microsoft or on Xbox One. It's definitely going to be worth it.
Yeah, and this is releasing July 26th, so this is something that you can get hyped for coming out fairly soon.
Yeah, it's going to be on early access. It's going to be on Xbox One first, and then it's definitely going to be a cross-platform game. So you're going to see it on the PC, and you're going to see it on the PlayStation 4 as well.
Later on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the art style of the game. I think for me, that's the thing that stood out the most. Like, I like the way the characters look. Like, they put on those creepy masks. It's definitely going to be a psychological type of thriller where, I think this game's going to get in your head. It seems like one of those games you're going to want to play with your headphones on to get the full immersion and creepiness. Definitely one that I got my eye on. It looks really good. Just kind of wonder about when it will make it over to the PlayStation. Perhaps I can play it on PC before then. Who knows?
Should be dope.
Yeah.
What's number 2 on your list?
Number 2 on my list is another Microsoft game. So let me pull up.
Sounds like Microsoft did a good job with their conference showing off games that we like.
Yeah, definitely, dude. All right, here we go. State of Decay 2. This is my second favorite game scene. I played the first one a little bit back on the 360. I didn't get really as in depth as I would have liked to have. I started playing it right at the end of that console's life cycle, right before the new consoles came out, and I could see the bones of a really, really, really good game. It just was held back, by last gen technology. But here we are, and we have some pretty powerful consoles that can handle games like these. That you're basically on a server, and anything you do on that server affects the game as a whole. So again, if you take a vehicle and you destroy that vehicle, it will forever be destroyed, in your game. So, you need an engine and you need a console strong enough to run something like that, which is why we see a lot of these types of games on the PC, because it can handle it and it can render all that. But my God, what a difference this game looks than State of Decay 1. Like, State of Decay 1 was, like, I don't want to say it was an ugly game and insult the developers, but it's night and day. I mean, this game looks so much better than the first one. Are you seeing these images, Pedro?
Yeah, they're using Unreal 4, by the way, as their engine.
Yeah, I mean, Unreal 4, proven engine. Like, damn near everybody uses it. I think that was the Fallout 4 engine, correct?
Oh, I don't know if Fallout was on Unreal, because that's. I'll find out for you.
Okay. Well, regardless, really strong engine. Just about everybody's using it right now. I just love the way they made the environment look. This game has full day and night cycles, so I can't wait to see how creepy the game looks at night. And then just again, like being that I played the first one, just the visual enhancements that they made is like so awesome. Like the way the zombies look, they look so freaking creepy. And Pedro, me and my zombies, man.
Yep.
I love them. Like right here on this image,
A
bro.
different type of zombie than what we saw in Days Gone, though.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that game here a little later. But yeah, definitely some a different look to these zombies. I love everything I'm seeing about this game. And I think it's a game that probably all of us at EDG will play together, being that, we do get to. Okay, so let's get into that. The way this game works is you have a community that you're kind of building. Like as you're going through, the world, you are, finding survivors and like you kind of like, pick and choose who you choose to be part of your community. And then, once they're part of your community, if it plays like the first one, you'll be switching off between characters because the character that you use, their stamina will diminish. Like if you're like awake too long, like getting into combat, looting a lot of items, your character's getting tired, so you'll literally have to let your character sleep, so they can refresh themselves, and you'll have to switch off between characters. Now what's really cool about this is you will get to where like in the first one, I had my favorite go-to characters, and when I couldn't use them because they were tired or encumbered, like I was so like, oh, I just want to use, let's just say Phil. We'll just say, and it's cool to see how you get to switch off between all these different characters and grow a bond with them. Now, Pedro, does this sound enticing to you? Does this sound like something you're going to get into?
I mean, I'll get into it as a team because it's definitely co-op, but I don't know if I'll play it by myself. That just doesn't seem like the type of game that I would play alone. I do have like the idea of having like an EDG kind of post-apocalyptic city or something like that we can upkeep, and I could get off and my guy goes to sleep, then he wakes up and is rejuvenated once I turn the Xbox back on or whatever the case may be. Now this is an Xbox exclusive, yes?
This is a Microsoft exclusive, so
Okay.
yeah, it'll be coming to the Xbox One and Windows 10. So keep that in mind, folks.
It
If
is a
you're
play anywhere title.
Yeah, it is a Play Anywhere title. If you're on the PlayStation, you will not be playing this game. So make sure. I mean, like Xbox just announced that it's got the price reduced. Was it $2.99 now to get an Xbox?
Yep.
So, I mean, there's no excuse. I mean, that's fairly cheap. So, definitely check this game out, guys. It's really high up on my list. And, Pedro, what I was going to do is instead of letting you go next, since this game kind of coincides with my favorite game shown, I'm going to go ahead and just reveal mine. You cool with that?
Yeah.
All right, my top pick for E3, my favorite game shown, which I had to keep going back and forth, and I still don't know if it's right there with State of Decay 2, but it's Days Gone. Here we have another zombie game, completely different game than State of Decay 2. This one follows a biker. He's in an MC. So I was watching an interview that the devs did with GameSpot, and they talked about they drew a lot of inspiration for this game from the show Sons of Anarchy, which I am a huge Sons of Anarchy fan. So I am totally cool with the fact that they got some inspiration from that. So the game's setting is going to take place in Oregon, which I haven't played a video game where you go to Oregon since Oregon Trail back on the PC. You remember that game?
Oh man, that's a super deep cut there, man.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's been a minute, so I kind of like the idea of that setting. You know, you got the mountains and you know, different elevations to factor in, and you know, again, we're going into the forest. You know, that just seems to be where I want to be. Like right now, you know, when you play video games, it's like you need a refresher. And since I've been playing games that, you know, take place, you know, outside of the forest, like in tight corridors or spaceships or, you know, whatever. I played a lot of Destiny. Like, I think this will be a good palate cleanser for me. Like, I think that's why I've been playing the forest on PCs, because that's what I want right now. You know, the bright green, you know, trees and stuff like that. So this game setting looks really cool. That's actually Kratos right there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Days Gone?
So the game is super like it's very good on the storytelling, especially with the gameplay demo that we saw. I thought that, you know, when he was chasing that guy through the forest and you know, trying to neutralize him, I didn't think he wanted to kill him, but he ended up doing so anyway because, you know, of the impending zombie attack that was happening. I think that the way that was done was very reminiscent of an Uncharted game, of what we've seen with The Last of Us, of sometimes when, you know, when the Order gets it right, it shows its action through storytelling, and the end of that gameplay trailer was such a cliffhanger that I mean, if they would have said pre-orders now, I think I would have just left and gone to my nearest, you know, Best Buy or Walmart and pre-ordered that game, because that was that good. The take on the zombies was pretty dope. You said during the conference it was a World War Z like zombie. I think that I said that in my opinion they were more like 28 days later. I think that your analysis was more spot on than mine, because of the fact that when they stack up, they can get over those obstacles or get through that obstacle, whereas 28 days later zombies really didn't do any of that, so they weren't as sophisticated as the ones that are in this game.
Yeah, I think the developers, I want to say that they're calling this particular type of zombie like freakers. So they're driven by a little bit more than just like your brains, like your traditional zombie would be. Like they were saying that they have a little bit more motivation than that. So they may act a little differently. Like there will be some like differences you notice from one zombie to the next. So.
Well, that's awesome. I think The Last of Us did it right with their. Can we call those zombies? I don't know what those are
Yeah,
exactly. You
they
know.
were infected by a parasite. So the parasite is what was controlling their behaviors. But
Okay, more like a Resident Evil type thing then.
correct, yeah.
Which shout out to Resident Evil for having an honorable mention, because that game surprised the hell out of all of us. Nate played the demo. Have you played that demo?
No, I haven't. But while you're on the topic, one thing to factor in with that game is playable in VR from beginning to end. So how big of a shocker was that?
That's wild, actually. That's a huge selling point. That game's also coming out in February as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be a really busy time for Sony fans. But back to Days Gone. Um, we don't have a legit release date for this game.
No, all we know is that it's rumored that this game's been in development for right around 5 years, and I'd be willing to wager, and it's pure speculation on my part, but I would think we'd see this game next year.
I mean, I hope so. I don't. I mean, 5 year development. It took The Last Guardian 7 years to come out. So I mean, the, I don't think we want to go any longer than that. I don't think that
I, I
Sony.
was gonna say, when it comes to the Last Guardian, one thing to factor in with that time cycle is that they started developing it on last gen, and then they had to kind of
Stop.
go back to the drawing board to put it on current gen. So I mean that's why that game got snagged. But you know, I'm hoping like maybe an October release next year. I hope.
Well, I mean, arguably it's the same thing with this one because they would have to. They probably start if they started this 5 years ago, then they started it for the PlayStation 4. But then the news or the idea of a PlayStation Neo was probably being kicked around maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So they would have probably had to restart development on the Neo to then downscale to whatever the PlayStation 4 puts out. So I mean, I would think that they were in the same boat as the Last Guardian developers.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing I want to talk about with the game is that it seems like you're going to use the environment in order to, help you survive this outbreak. Because in the gameplay trailer that was shown, as the zombies are, coming at him, he's backpedaling basically, and as they're growing near, he's using things in the environment to his advantage, like your traditional shoot the barrel and it'll explode like you see in a lot of other games. But then we started seeing some unique things, like when he ran into a barn, he closed this sliding door, and then the zombies, busted onto it. And I even called it before it happened. I'm like, that door is going to dent and they're going to bust in there. But it did slow him down. So then, he starts using the barn to his advantage. Like there was a conveyor belt. So he runs through this little section and then he closes the door behind, puts the door down, and then it kind of holds him back. And then so he starts going up the stairs, and again he starts using more barrels. And then there's this cool part where he goes over like a wooden kind of bridge sorta, and when the zombies get onto the bridge, because of the weight, it collapses, buying him even more time. So I thought it was really, really cool the way he uses the environment. We ended up seeing later at E3 another reveal trailer from GameSpot. They had an extended look where he's able to make it outside, and there's these bundles of logs, because this was like a sawmill where he's at in the game trailer, and he's putting like explosives that look like they're triggered by by movement. So as soon as the zombies get near it, it triggers the explosion, takes out a few zombies, and then the logs crumble and crush zombies behind it. So it looked really cool how you can use the environment to your advantage. So what do you think about that, Pedro?
I think that's gonna promote a much like smarter gameplay. I think we'll be able to take our time, creating those traps and fortifying our path. It should be pretty fun. I think. No, in The Last of Us, it was already there was a section where there was already booby trapped, and we had to get through that. And this one, it looks like we'll be doing the trapping, and making sure that the zombies don't get in, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. And the last thing I want to hit on with the game is that you will be following, like, it looks like the lead character will, again, he's in a biker game. You see the cut on his back. He's rocking a ring that says MC on it, which is, a biker charter, insignia. The game says he's a murderer for hire, so he's a mercenary. So how do you feel about playing that type of character, Pedro?
I think it's perfect for this type of apocalyptic game, especially because he's lost everything. He lost his wife beforehand, and I think that's when he lost his wife, I think he lost his humanity, and that's why he became a murder for hire, because he's got nothing else to kind of live for. So I think that it should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I always say to myself, like, if we ever were in a situation where we had to survive an outbreak of zombies, it's going to be those types of individuals that are around years later. People that were already used to be like savages in life. You know what I mean? People that are part of a tight knit group of individuals that are savage, and they're not worried about stealing from people, and like they can throw hands, you know what I mean? Like they're just used to it. Like life was already a struggle before the outbreak, so it's nothing new to them. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. What is your favorite game shown at E3?
I think it was a game that both of us kind of looked at each other and was like, "This is super interesting." I don't know if you had heard about the game beforehand. I had heard rumors or just maybe the name, but I did not know the premise of Detroit becoming human. And when I saw that premise, and kind of, uh, we're living in a world where androids kind of do, like, I guess they're they work for us, or they serve some sort of purpose within our day-to-day lives, but there's a disconnect between the androids and humans, and it's almost kind of like a South Park, like they took our jobs like attitude, when in that beginning of that trailer where that girl was basically being held captive against a an android that went awry. What did you think about kind of the attitude that the humans had towards the androids in the beginning of that trailer?
Um, it looked pretty interesting, and my takeaway from the trailer is like it was crazy just how many different ways like the story can go. Like I think it showed like probably around 6 different scenarios that could have played out. Like when you saw the android on top of that skyscraper, and then it was another one that had that girl captive, right? So it was like two.
Yeah.
It was 2 androids, like, and it showed like so many different ways that you could go about trying to take advantage of the situation and get the girl back. It showed a lot of different ways as to how it could go awry. Like I thought that was like really cool.
So that game is super short, though. They're talking 8 to 10 hours gameplay, according to the devs. Now, I think what is cool about the game, though, is that it does have tons of replay value, simply because you've got all these different choices, and there may be a time where, let's say in that scenario, the android dies, or there's a time where both of them die. There could be a time where he kills the girl and he survives. You kind of don't know what the what the end scenario is going to be, and then if it's not to your liking, you get to go back and replay it. So people will probably get much more than 8 to 10 hours out of this video game, especially because of the fact that you can actually replay it and get a different result. So, in my opinion, I think that a game like this, 8 to 10 hours, but you can get different results, and maybe there might be multiple endings. I know in Heavy Rain there were multiple endings,
Yeah.
and there's like one true ending that you need to do, and you need to actually follow the procedure to actually get the true ending. So, this. Despite the fact that it's a rumored 8 to 10 hours to finish the game, I think that this might be worth the $60 price point, especially because it does look beautiful. Hopefully, the game looks this good in engine as opposed to using the E3 trailer.
Yeah, I think it will, since this is a game that's, again, like an 8 to 10 hour experience. I think they can, put a lot of, uh, assets into the visuals. You know what I mean? And on the length of the campaign, I think that's probably right about where you would want it to be, because since it is story driven and it is narrative driven, like you don't want the story to get muddled by this extremely long, drawn out campaign. Like there were some complaints of Uncharted 4 having a little bit too long of a story. A lot of people said that like maybe they just drew it out a little longer than they needed to, since it was story driven. Open world sandbox types of games, those are the types of games that you want to have, that 60 to 100 hours, of gameplay, because, you're getting all these different quests, and it's like small stories inside of this one grand story. But games like this, it's like, it's basically one story, you know what I mean? So I think that'll be like perfect. And then like you said, there's so many different possible, outcomes and ways to play the game, and there's a lot of different stories to be told. So that's how you'll get that longer experience, by playing it over and over and over again. And this game reminds me of games like Heavy Rain. It kind of is using that same idea, probably pushing it a little bit further. And I haven't played a game like this since there's a game way back in the day, I think it was PS2, called Indigo Prophecy, where it was the same concept where, situations would happen. You would have a dialogue wheel, and you just kind of chose what prompts that you want to do in the situation, and anytime you did, it'd be a drastic outcome. And I've been looking for a game like that for a really, really long time. And it's funny because when we first saw this game shown off, I said, oh wow, this looks like Indigo Prophecy. And we just got news, I want to say it was a day or two ago, that Indigo Prophecy is coming to PS4. So that's kind of ironic.
As a remake or as a brand new title?
I don't know. I would imagine probably just yeah. See what you can pull up there. But I mean, like, again, I've been looking for a game like that for a really long time. I remember playing Indigo Prophecy, and I think we were just talking about this on a podcast too. How my family. Oh yeah, Games is Art, that podcast, where I talked about that game. Like, the story was so good that I considered it like a good piece of art. And, like, this game seems to draw a lot of inspiration from a game like that. So
it will release in July 18th, priced at $15. It is a remaster of the original Indigo Prophecy.
I'm hype.
So if anybody wants to, kind of check out what Quantic Dream can do when they make a game, definitely check out Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy, the 1080p remastered game from the PS2 to the PS4, launching exclusively on that platform July 18th for $15.
Yeah, and this will be a good way for people to kind of like get an idea of how these types of games play out. So then they can, see if a game like Detroit will be their cup of tea, because it's less of a game, and it's kind of more of like almost like a Telltale The Walking Dead series type of game, where it's kind of like you're playing an interactive story more than you are playing a video game. So.
Well, that bodes well for anybody who actually enjoys, playing that type of story-based game, and anybody who's interested in becoming human I would assume is very interested in that type of style. So again, that's another game that we don't have a release date for, but we may have a release window, I guess, of 2017. I don't think that's going to make it past 2017 being unreleased. I really hope not, because I think that's a game that will look great. That will probably be a Neo launch title, I would think.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the way I wanted to close out the show is, now that E3 is come and gone, we've got our favorite games that were shown from the conference, and a lot of them have been pushed into 2017. I wanted to ask you if you feel like you've played the best game of 2016. Here it is, the middle of June, so we're about 6 months in. We played some good games. We see what's coming. Do you think you already played the best game that this year has to offer?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are games coming out in 2016 that are still left to wow us. We still have The Last Guardian. Gears 4 looks like a juggernaut. Recore looks like it could sneak in there. Doesn't South Park and the is it the Open Butthole or something like that?
Fractured
Butthole. Doesn't that come out in 2016 as well? You still have great games like Gran Turismo, Forza. So I mean, there's still definitely great titles. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which looked amazing, is coming out. Battlefield 1 will be out. Like there's still third-party titles as well that we need to try out. And one game that neither one of us mentioned here, which deserves honorable mention for best game that we've seen on E3, which I know Nate and our newest member Danny would say is probably the best game of E3 2016 is Zelda, the new Zelda game, which we didn't mention. That game is also probably going to be a game of the year candidate. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. We still have the Batman Telltale game that's coming out this year, Batman in VR. There's a lot of gaming left. Uncharted, while it's definitely the leader in terms of game of the year right now, I would say it definitely has a lot of competition coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, when it comes to me, there were some really good games announced for this year, but I think from what I saw, it's going to be really hard to beat Uncharted 4. That game was just gorgeous. The gameplay was so tight. Using the Jeep and that winch and just being in Madagascar and just that game was it just blew me away, man. But I mean, I wasn't really surprised by it. It's Naughty Dog. They know what they're doing. You know, it's really gonna be hard to beat that game out. And I don't know if I saw anything that was coming out this year that was going to beat it. So we'll see. I could be wrong about that. We still got another 6 months, and we got the new Call of Duty game coming out, which looks really good to me. And I don't know, man. We'll see. But I think Uncharted 4 takes the cake for me, and that's the game to beat.
What's your most anticipated game going to the end of the year now that we're at the midway point?
I would definitely say Call of Duty, which is surprising because, I feel like that franchise is a franchise. Like initially, it was one of those things where I thought they needed to do what's the game where he does the parkour that they're taking a break. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, Assassin's Creed. I kind of thought they needed to go away for a little while, like Assassin's Creed, go back to the drawing board and really just give that franchise a rest. But when we saw the first trailer, that it almost confirmed those suspicions. But then when we saw the E3 trailer, and I talked about that on our last video, it blew me away. And I'm like, oh yes, I am totally down for that. Like, they're scrapping the stupid jetpacks and they're going with, what do you call it? The
grappling hook.
Grappling hook. Thank you, man. I might have lost for words. Sorry, guys. But yeah, like the way they used the grappling hook was really cool. You're gonna get to have space battles. Zombies are making a return, and there's zombies in outer space with zero gravity. That should be interesting. So I think right now that game definitely has me super stoked. I was really hoping to see if that game Ark was coming to PlayStation 4. I didn't really get any news there other than the survival mode, it seems to be multiplayer only. So, not really any news there. So I would say Call of Duty has it for me.
Call of Duty is definitely on my list. I'm thinking that Batman Telltale game is probably going to be number one for me. Gears 4 is definitely something that I'm going to play. Recore, I will definitely try that out because I'm very interested in seeing what the new IP looks like in the future looks like for Microsoft, because that's going to be a tentpole game for them if it does turn out to be pretty good. Battlefield 1, maybe not. I don't think I'm going to go with Battlefield 1. I think I'm going to go with Infinite Warfare as opposed to Battlefield 1. We're forgetting Titanfall 2.
Oh my God, how did we forget that?
Titanfall 2. I'm not interested in The Last Guardian, and I know you and Nate are in particular. But I mean, if it gets enough buzz, I might rent it.
I'm kind of more interested to see what 7 years did for that game. I can't really say that they showed showed off anything that was like, I must have this game right now. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this game completely catches us all off guard and it's really good. But that's like a wait and see type of deal for me. I'm going to see how the reviews come in before I, pick it up.
I don't particularly enjoy. I didn't particularly enjoy Shadow of the Colossus or Eco, so definitely not a game for me. But I'll let you guys, play it and let me know how it is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed episode 20 of Let's Hash It. We've reached the end of the show. Pedro, you got anything you want to plug?
Yeah, check us out on Facebook. We got a Facebook group. Just search for Extremely Decent Games at Facebook. We're the first group to come up. Nate's been doing Let's Plays of Odin Sphere. So if you guys have wanted to check that game out, check out his Let's Plays. They've been really, really good. As well as I think his Let's Play of Resident Evil 7 demo is up too. So if you are an Xbox owner and want to watch, or live vicariously through him, please, by all means, check out his Let's Play.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'll go ahead and plug our Twitter account. It is Extremely Decent Games on Twitter, no spaces. Other than that, just keep your eye out for the channel. We should be back next week with better audio. We've made some investments. We're going to be in full 1080p, hopefully by next week. So we're always trying to do better and, be one of the top tier podcasts out there. It's a dream of ours. We're going to continue to try to do better every week. Right, Pedro?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll be a foursome next week. We shall see. But have an extremely decent week, guys.